them in there. You know, we had a strong 25 mile an hour headwind across component, so it was doing about what it should. So it terminates right when the reticle's about that far down on the screen. Now for larger calibers, this is you're gonna be able to see all the way up to the max range of most of your medium calibers. That's right. Yeah, I'm just coming above the sandbags is all I'm doing there. Gosh, look at the tires, the top of the tires on my tractor. And I'm not focusing anything. This will get much sharper if I turn this knob. There we go. Let's see what it is. Hey guys, Rex here. We all knew that at some point thermal imaging optics would become more affordable and still deliver the quality that a guy would need to get the job done. I remember when stuff like this would have cost $40,000 years ago. There was units I got to play with. There were upwards of $200,000. I've seen the DOD issued stuff. I've seen stuff that helicopter pilots use. I've seen all sorts of different commercially available thermal optics as well. This one is a hell of a lot more affordable at in between $1,000 and $2,000. And you're getting a lot of the same quality that was really only available for a crazy price in the old days. And when I say old days, I mean not that long ago. Even, what would it be, 5-7 years ago, stuff of this quality would have been between $5,000 and $10,000. But because there is a such thing, if you look at the performance of computers, digital cameras, digital smartphones, things like that, of course, the quality makes leaps and bounds when it comes to technology, and the price can actually come down a bit. So this is the Mars MT1000LRF thermal imaging optic. This is available from Oneleaf, and I'll share the information below, all the specifications, where to find it, etc. But this is a very interesting unit. I want to get stuff that's good enough to work for a long time, especially when it comes to stuff like this. My last one that I got in terms of thermal imaging scopes was the Trail XP50 from Pulsar, which is an excellent thermal optic. I've killed countless numbers of vermin with that thing in the farmyard. In the summertime, I will do daily or, 3 times a day patrols in the yard with my little MP1522 here with that Pulsar on there. And it served me very well. However, I did get the opportunity to check this one out and to try to show you what this has to offer. First off, interesting feature is that interchangeable lenses. So this is the 50 millimeter lens, which gives you a 2.8 magnification optically. And then there's also a 35 millimeter lens that comes with it, which gives you a little bit wider field of view and with a 2-power optical magnification. Now, these are very quick to change out. You simply hit this button here and you turn it to the unlock position and you pull it straight off. You get the other one and it just locks it. So you push the button, turn it, unlock it, put it in. Very simple, very quick to change. And they're small enough a guy could carry that with you. Now, of course, I've selected the 50 millimeter for now because a lot of the stuff I see out here, if you look behind me, I can see 1,000 yards. And it's nice, especially when you're talking about digital zoom, to skip the digital zoom part and try to go for optical zoom. Your digital zoom will only zoom in digitally on whatever you have optically. So you have two different magnification ranges effectively, depending on which one of these you use. The 35mm lens will give you 2 power all the way out to 16 power, and the 2.8 magnification 50mm lens is going to give you 2.8 power to 22.4. I will share the table I calculated for you guys. Very simple calculation. You take the digital zoom level times the base optical magnification to get the final magnification value. Now, once you go past your 1 power digital zoom, of course, it's a digital zoom on whatever the optical deal is, okay? So you can configure that any way you want. One consideration, where would the 35mm be a little better, is field of view. So I also made a table for you guys doing a basic field of view calculation based on the 12.5 degree field of view of the 35mm lens and the 8.8 degree field of view of the 50mm lens on 1 all the way to 8 power. So you can index this table I created for you guys to get an idea of the field of view at different optical zoom ranges. So the specifications of this unit is the NETD, or the noise equivalent temperature difference, that it can read is less than 20. That's pretty sensitive. If you look at the specs of other units, the lower number is more sensitive. That basically means that it can see differences less than 0.02 degrees Celsius. So 0.02 degrees, not 0.2 degrees, 0.02 degrees Celsius, which is pretty gosh darn sensitive for a thermal imaging scope like this. That's a pretty gosh darn sharp image right there. I'll say that. Oh, I am, yeah. So this is going to give you very high-end clarity, even in fog, in rain, where you have a very low temperature differential between different objects, because everything's kind of like moist and wet at the same temperature, or late into the night, fog. That can be really difficult for thermal optics to differentiate between very slight temperature variations. This having that amount of sensitivity is why you can still see pretty gosh darn good in the rain. And we tested it in the rain. It works pretty good, actually. Surprisingly well, a lot better than my older units do. All right, it is raining, and we are on rain mode. Now the 640 by 512 at 12 micron sensor is basically, you have 640 pixels wide and 512 pixels tall. And 12 micron sensor tells you the pixel pitch, which is basically explaining how far apart each sensor pixel is from the other one. So in plain terms, that means higher resolution than a lot of other units. Again, a smaller pixel pitch gives you a little more clear of an image. It's going to be more sharp, more clear, and also it can lead to a more compact optic as well, because you're getting it in a smaller package. So older units, industry standard, I think if I remember correctly, my Pulsar Trail 50, which was around $5 or $6 grand, was about 17 microns. So basically putting it all together, you get a sensor that's very sensitive to slight temperature changes. And that's why this is giving you a pretty gosh darn good picture, even of the background and the backdrop behind the target. Because if you know the 4 fundamentals of firearm safety is know your target and also what's beyond your target. Sometimes that's difficult to do with a thermal optic, is you'll see a real good view of that high thermal contrast actual living body target, but all the stuff behind it, depending on the environment, especially in a low thermal contrast environment, can look very much the same. It can just be grayed out. And so this optic is a lot safer to use, particularly if you want to make sure you're not damaging property or doing something potentially dangerous. You want to know what's behind the target, and this will give you a good idea of what direction you're pointing, where you're at. If you're from, you can see the terrain and where you're at behind the target. It also has a 60 hertz refresh rate, and it does have smooth tracking. So the 60 hertz means 60 frames per second. Essentially, it doesn't have a shutter. It's a shutterless operation on this, so it's a very smooth image. Now 60 hertz. Man, I think that's the minimum of what's needed when you have living targets that are moving, particularly if you're engaging fast-moving vermin. I've shot a lot of stuff that was running with thermals, And you need 60 hertz to be able to engage a running target, in my opinion. Some of the small critters running fast, or even field mice, I mean, they dart around so quick. You have to have a you don't realize how fast your eyes and your mind can adjust for those things and make decisions. But 60 hertz is minimum. And so this is good. This is right up there with your good stuff. 60 hertz is kind of industry standard for a good quality thermal. You know, another thing I noticed too is a lot of other even high dollar thermal optics. I got some that are, you know, again, very expensive thermal optics. They'll have like a refresh that basically will interrupt the image for a second, and you can't really control when that happens. And if you look on the right, you can see now that we're panning down with the pulsar, it does have an image burnt in from being moved. So it's going to take a second here. It's going to do an auto correction. It's going to pause for 2 seconds. There she goes. And now it's snapped back into, it's been re-knocked. And Murphy's Law would have it, man. Every time you're about to pull the trigger, every 30 to 60 seconds, is boom. This doesn't do that. I have not seen that. So this is a smooth, shutterless, with a high hertz rate. You're not having any hiccups in the optic, which was my biggest complaint about even some of my higher dollar thermal scopes. So this does not have that problem. Another big upgrade on this deal for being such a low cost is the full color HD OLED display. So you have a number of different color palettes. There's like 11 different thermal palettes of different color combinations. That gives you a lot of added capability. Even some of the high dollar units I've used in the past, it's just, you know, white hot or black. There's only a couple modes, but you don't have full color options. Now, depending on your use, depending on your situation, your context, I still prefer to use like white hot or black hot. Those are the two main ones that the guys used to. But there's other applications where, gosh darn, that's kind of nice to be able to actually give a more, it gives you more information with different colors. It can give you more information on exactly what the thermal gradient is. We have sepia tone, we have iron bow, we have rainbow, we have night mode, we have aurora, we have red hot. The stuff that's actually really hot will actually highlight red. We have a setting called jungle. There's jungle mode. And there is a mode called medical. And then there is black hot. You know, it's not just stylistic. The sepia one gives you a lot more oranges and reds. That's good for eye strain. So different colors will have different advantages depending on what the situation is. So for reduced eye strain, like more of a red filter can be a little easier on the eyes. Now, there's differences, though, if you're viewing something for a long time. And you'll see like greens versus the white. If you're using like normal night vision, like a PVS 14, there's different types of eye fatigue too. But this is specifically for reduced eye strain, and losing your night vision is going to be a little reduced on a lower wavelength. There's a lot of different options that give you different heat gradients, and you can see what's going on. And so it's neat to go through them and kind of see what you're going to use. For me, for target engagement, man, for live targets, I pretty much use, you know, what I'm used to. So that will be up to the user's discretion, but you do have a lot of options. It does have 6 different scene modes. And so your different scenes are like different environments, which is smart for them to put in there. They can kind of pre-calibrate the processor to interpret the images based on if it's like a forest. Man, that changes stuff. You got a lot of 3-dimensional objects stacked in there, right? And so it can be a little darker, a little more contrast in the forest. Rain, I did extensive rain testing with this unit. When it was pouring rain, when it was fog, low thermal contrast environment, normal contrast, and when the lenses were completely wet, I actually threw this into the water for a while. It's got a good IP rating, IP67 rating. We'll get into that in a minute, but it works well in the rain. I was surprised. Also, snow, there's a snow mode. Now, they tell me in the instruction manual that their snow mode is set up for anything below 13 degrees Celsius, which is like 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So actually, I had this on snow mode for a little while it was raining here, because it was like less than 50 degrees in the rain. Actually, that second night I was testing in the rain, I didn't realize it was 33 degrees in the rain. So me and the wife are standing out there at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning in, 33 degree, just soaking wet rain. Didn't even notice. Must have been too tired to notice. But it works good. There's a haze mode, a fog, and a city mode. So those are all different environments will have different thermal contrast to them that pre-calibrates it, and the settings do make a difference. So if you play with that, it actually works very well. It does have a built-in laser rangefinder right here, see, on the side. This sucker is so useful, and I'll explain exactly how. There is a built-in customizable set of ballistic calculators in here too that go hand in hand with your laser rangefinder. So your laser rangefinder sees how far it is, and there's a ballistic drop compensating marker in the reticle that will continuously adjust to whatever the range you're reading is. In the center of the reticle is where your rangefinder lines up. So you point the center of the crosshairs right at the target. It'll tell you the range right next to it, which is nice. And then you'll see below it, there's a little thing that moves up and down depending on how far you are. That's the hold off for the ballistic drop compensator. Once you get locked in to a certain distance, once you laze the target, you simply click this knob down, and we'll show you the interface in a minute. You click that knob down, and you are now locked in on your laser rangefinder. Okay, very cool. And that BDC marker is now frozen in place, so you can go and hammer away. When you're done and you want to engage a new target or go back to normal scanning, you just click that again. And the intuition behind the controls on this is another thing I'd really like to talk about at the end of the review here. So the ballistic calculator, pretty gosh darn handy. And it's smart. So it has all your inputs. I'm running 22 caliber Federal Auto Match in here now. So I put my inputs in there. It asked me, for the grain, it's 40 grain bullet, lead round nose, 1,200 feet a second. The ballistic coefficient is 0.120. All the different ballistic inputs, it gives you the height above bore. The height above bore of this on this rifle with this mount here that came with it is exactly 3 inches above the height of bore on this MP1522. So you can type all that stuff. You don't type it in, you dial it in. And the menus to do stuff like that, I was dreading all the features when I read all the this thing has a huge amount of features. I was dreading having to index through the menus. Some of the other optics I've had in the past have all these different buttons and sub-menus with sub-menus behind that. You can't find anything. I want a list of things that's just boom, 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 boom. So there's, I think, 3 or 4 pages of lists in here. You just hold this button down, like you hold it down until it goes to the menu, and then you just dial down. So you crank down like clockwise to go down the menu, counterclockwise to come up, which is highly intuitive because that's how a screw works. Like your elevation works that way too, your turret, right? So you just scroll down, scroll up the menu. When you want to click on something, you hit it. The instructions for every single input function that you can mess with any of the settings is right in the viewer. You don't need the instruction manual. The instruction manual is in the site when you're looking through it. It tells you on the bottom exactly what to do or what not to do. All right, to set this, go here. It tells you which buttons to hit to lock it in. As it's very highly intuitive to be, once I noticed the instructions are in the menu, in the optic, I was very happy. There was at no time was I confused indexing through the various menus on here to adjust anything I want. That is not the case with other thermal optics I've reviewed in the past, which are terrible user interface unless you're like a Gen Z or something, man. Like, I can't figure that stuff out. I do not like to page through menus and buttons. I just want it simple. So I think that the smarter ones of the younger crowd got very, like, some of the new computer stuff, and with all the different people interfacing with the computers now, they were able to get this to be actually user-friendly. So they did a very good job on that part. That's my favorite part of this optic, is I can actually adjust the stuff on it and not be, and I bet you I could sit this down, because the very first time I figured it out is like, I've never seen it before in my life. I go from never seeing it before in my life to absolutely getting everything perfectly squared away the way I want it. Just by dialing up and down through the menu, click on the stuff, it tells you how to do it. Zeroing was very, very quick and easy. 1 minute and 30 seconds, I think. That was not the case for my Pulsar. It just was counterintuitive to the way at least my brain works. Now, some guys who are more used to it, or maybe other people have a different way their mind works. Mine had a hell of a time with some of those other units, paging through the various menus. I don't like that. So that's a really cool feature about this. The ballistic computer, though, is smart. Now, in a 22, it's only given me dope out to like 650, which is very far. That's extreme long range for a 22. Past that, I don't think it's calculating anymore. Okay? But it's given me dope all the way to the bottom of the reticle. So when I'm on like 2.8 power, which is, zoom setting 1 on this 50mm lens, it's given me dope all the way to where when I'm holding over, it quits when you can't see the thing anymore. So the ballistic, and it looks like it's being done correctly too. I hammered away at a few little gophers out there, and I mean, there's 500-600, and this is just a 22, but it was getting super close. I don't think I hit them. Just kind of offhand, right? Of course, you forget to record those, but it was right in there, man, like really close. Yeah, and that's a pretty cool feature. So when you're actually really close, the reticle is giving you height above bore offset. A lot of people forget about that. Got to aim a little high over the target at very close range before you're at your first point of intersection. But all that stuff is accounted for digitally. It's like, that is brilliant. Very smart. I'm 0 to 36 with this. But if I'm at 7, very close, and you're shooting at a mouse, that's important. You would miss if you didn't know to do that. So that's cool. The ballistic drop compensator accounts for height over bore. Brilliant. Whoever did that deserves an applause. That was pretty smart. You have a variety of different drag models available. Like ballistic, in terms of ballistic computers, it's smart. Like it has all your different drag models in there. You can type in your windage, all that different stuff. It's not like, applied ballistics level accuracy in terms of all the different crazy extreme long range stuff that you could type in, but it's totally usable. Also, the different reticles, there's a number of different reticles. There's 7 different reticles, and you can do 5 different colors. So I chose green because it kind of works with the blend of colors that I'm using at the brightness I use. But they have red and blue and all the different colors that you can use, white, black, etc., right? But there's 7 different reticles. They have a first focal plane option and a second focal plane option. That's, man, why, like if it's digital, why not put it in there, right? That's what I always thought. Why would they not have this calibrated if it's digital and it's just a computer? Computers can do any kind of stuff like that. So having a second focal plane option and a first focal plane option for a variety of 7 different pretty useful reticles is brilliant. Very, very, very smart. One shot 0 actually worked pretty gosh darn good. I took my first shot and I grabbed it with the other reticle. There's 2 reticles you use. You basically put I think it's the white one, you put that on your aiming point after you take your first shot, and you move the red one to where the bullet went, and it walks you through the instructions on the bottom. You basically hit your camera button here. It tells you in the scope to do that, to save it. Boom, done. Cool. I had to adjust it a tiny bit after that because I only did a 1-shot 0. I didn't do a full group, so I just wanted to try the 1-shot 0. After I got a group, okay, I moved it like a tiny bit more. The other smart thing about this is there's a reticle return to center. So once you save it, I've had other digital optics to where the reticle, if it ends up being, depending on how your mount works out with your rifle, sometimes you got to adjust a lot to get it zeroed. And it's like way off to the side in the corner. That's annoying. That sucks. So like this has the reticle return to center. So once you save it, it adjusts everything to go back to center. So there's enough sensors in here to where it can afford to do that. You're not like way off to the side and completely hosed. Okay. Digital, again, first focal plane and second focal plane functions. There's, of course, a picture capture and a video capture. That's how you're seeing the footage here. Now, you can't grab a video during the settings, as far as I could figure out. Maybe there's a way to do that. So I had to record some of that stuff through the actual eyepiece with my iPhone, okay? There is a picture-in-picture mode. You can turn that on. You can turn that off. It's real simple again. For every single function that's in here, you just hold this top. So this button is a dial. So this right here is a dial. It cranks like this, but it's also a button. So you just hold it down until the menu pops up, and then you dial up and down. And when you click on whatever you want, and then you can dial up and down to get the values there. You can make more gross, like if you're indexing through like what your ballistic coefficient is, or if you're putting in an input that's a number input, these will move it in tens. So this moves it tens in units of tens up and down for a fast deal, or you can use this to fine adjust your numbers. Very smart. And if I can figure this out without reading the instruction manual, and I did afterwards, that's very intuitive. Like if a dinosaur can figure out this digital machine without having to go to school to operate it, that's very smart, right? I like that part. So the picture-in-picture mode is cool. I like to use it because, and you can actually space that left and right. So if you want it out of the way, like if you want it like off in the corner, off to the side, you can move it left and right. So you can move your picture-in-picture box. That is really smart. I like to have mine kind of on center, just above my aiming point, because the lower part you're going to use for your ballistic drop, right? So yeah, that's where I put mine. Very, very smart. Comfortable eye relief. It is a little, like any other screen. This is not a normal optic. You're looking at an actual TV screen effectively inside here, right? And so this eyepiece is adjustable here. Make sure you adjust that when you get this, or you're going to go bug-eyed, okay? It took me a little while to get my eye relief correct, getting used to where exactly that was. This is your ocular, so you set this to get a nice clear image of your reticle and all your stuff in here. And then this is, of course, your optical lens focus for your objective, and this is your ocular for the screen in the back. But you do want to get both of those set up right. This one you set once for your eye and it's good. And of course, this one, your ocular focus is at different distances. You have to focus it for the exact distance. So if you're changing from close to medium to far, you have to dial this in if you want it sharp. Now, it seems the processor has a certain amount of flexibility to actually sharpen up images that you don't have in focus perfectly anyways. I've noticed that. Like, it'll kind of like actually go into focus. Now, there's a limit to that. So you do want to focus your ocular. So another cool thing too, guys, is of course the batteries are important for exactly what battery they're running. This is the 18650 lithium ion battery. That's the same battery that would be in the Zulus that I recently reviewed from a different outfit. Okay. That's the same battery that the e-cigarette guys use. That's the 18650 battery is like one of the most common produced batteries. So you talk about logistical compatibility with a lot of other systems. If you're ever in a pinch, by the way, in World War III and you need more 18650 batteries, there's a lot of places to find them. A lot of flashlights use those, the high-powered LED flashlights, so it's cross-compatible with those. A lot of weapons-mounted lights and optics use that battery. E-bikes and scooters actually will use, and even those little hoverboards will use power packs that are made up of a whole set of the 18650s, because that's kind of the industry standard to be used in larger power cells in a lot of different things. I think there's power banks and portable chargers. A lot of those will just stack up the 18650. If you take those batteries apart, that's a lot of times there's just a bunch of those in there, right? So if you ever need a spare, I'm sure you'll be able to find one, even in the distant future. Very, very commonly employed. A lot of cordless drills and saws and other tools also use a similar setup. A lot of them do use 18650 batteries. The exact battery issued with this was the 18650/35 Echo, designed for high energy storage for long runtime. So if you want to maintain that long runtime at a moderate discharge rate, which this unit runs cool too. My old Pulsar, that sucker can get hot. And you see the cooling fins on there. This is that newer technology that is running a lot more cool. And I don't think it's using near as much power to do what it does. It's just more efficient in general. So the runtime on this little battery is, I think what do they advertise? 5 hours? I ran it for 10 hours and it still worked. So it was 10 hours of runtime on one battery for me at 53 degrees Fahrenheit. This is also designed with high shock resistance. This is rated up to 1,000 Gs, which if you work out the math, and Rex works out the math, 1,000 Gs can be reproduced by a 1 meter drop test on a hard surface with less than 1 millimeter of deceleration. So like concrete or a really hard packed gravel road where it's not going to give it all. Like if you got like Proctor, 98 Proctor, like crushed concrete driveway or something, it's effectively 1 millimeter of deceleration. Or if you got more of a soft surface, you can do drop test at a higher distance. Like if it depresses 1 centimeter when it hits the ground, if it's a 1 centimeter deceleration, you can do a 10-meter drop test on softer ground to get 1,000 Gs. But that's plenty of shock. That's more than you're going to experience. So this is going to work fine on high recoiling rifles or weapons that have a lot of bolts slammed to them. And the last of the features, but not the least, is the IP rating of 6.7. So the 6 part denotes the dust proof. So this thing is completely sealed. There's O-rings. It's designed to be completely dust proof, which for me is extremely important. Because in the summertime when it's dry, there is so much dust. My brand new Honda car did not work. I had to take it back. It would clog up the evac system on the Honda was not working. So I get a lot of dust out here. So that's important for me. And the 7 is a waterproof rating. So the 7 is actually, it's waterproof, I think 1 meter underwater for 30 minutes, if I remember correctly, IP7. So this is ingress protection 6.7, dust and water, which is awesome. And yes, I tested it in the rain. I didn't throw it into the swimming pool yet to see. You don't want to go more than 1 meter under the water with any kind of electronic lithium powered device. That's just a bad idea for a number of reasons. But you know what? It puts up with the rain fine. I was in the rain all night twice, and it works totally fine in the rain. So the mounts on this unit, I don't know if you can see that. We have 2 screws. And mounts here, there are underneath. They give you 4 screws to attach the mount to the optic. You have more places than that. The instruction manual says you need to have at least 3 of them, so you can come off. You can offset it enough to where you just need 3 screws to attach it according to the instructions. It's a decent amount of torque that they advertise, 13 Newton meters, which is like 115. What would that be? Inch pounds, or like around 8 or 9 or 10 foot-pounds. God forbid you're using that tool on your rifle stuff, right? But 13 Newton meters of torque to tighten this down from here to here, okay? The rail part, this is the one part I think they could improve. So if you notice here, this is on an MP1522, a plastic rail. So this little tiny, it does have kind of a small claw on the other end. Now on this side, we got plenty of grab, okay? On this side, we have plenty of grab for the rail. This side is a bit small. I talked to the folks down at Oneleaf, and they actually do offer a quick detachable claw mount, which has quite a bit more purchase, which should overlap the rail lugs a lot more than this original one. So in my opinion, the original rail mount is inadequate for any kind of like aluminum or plastic type rails or something. If you need it to be repeatable, you're going to want to use a mount with a lot more grab. So I do have one of the QD mounts on the way, and if you can look at it here, it looks pretty gosh darn nice. So once that comes in, we'll test the repeatability, because a quick detach mount would be the cat's meow on this thing. Something with a little bit bigger of a claw I would prefer on any kind of softer material. Even aluminum, you're distributing all that grabbing power into a very small area. Okay, it's nice to spread out that footprint a bit, in my opinion, and especially with plastic. That's why I have it tied down. Okay, I don't want to lose it. You know what I mean? One of the most important features on here that I discovered relatively quickly, and this will save you a lot of cussing. If you ever notice that the image all of a sudden goes really wonky, or you're starting to see a lot of vertical or horizontal lines in there, or if you're seeing really bad like digital vignetting around the periphery of the lens, this processor is trying to adapt to the exact picture you're looking at. But also, if you get a lot of water on the lens, which I did have water on the lens at the time, The processor is trying to make sense of that. And so you can do lid calibrations. And so basically, when you close the lid, see the lid here? You close that shut. Now, thermally, it's just a blank slate. It's looking at something that's all uniform. And you index, you push the button down, and you actually go up. So counterclockwise, past the first menu, into the next menu, there's a thing called lid calibration. Click on that, and then it'll tell you to hit this record button. It'll give you the instructions. You just hit that, wait a few seconds, and then it'll give you the green light. You are good now. It is calibrated. You open this sucker up, and it's like beautiful, brand new, 100 times better quality image. When you see that, just do a lid calibration, and it, boom, brings it perfect image back into focus. It just resets the processor to calibrate for normal thermal environment, okay? So if you ever find yourself getting frustrated with the image quality, first make sure you're focused here, then make sure you're focused here, and if it's still kind of wonky, do a lid calibration, it'll bring it back to brand new. And the image quality is excellent. It's very, very good compared to other units I've seen in the past. And again, I've run very expensive stuff and a variety of other cheap stuff. It's very good quality. So professional operators have asked me a few questions that I'm going to answer here. Can it be cross-compatible with 1, 2, 3 batteries where you can stack 2 of them? This one actually is not. You're going to want to use the 18650 batteries. I did ask them, and it is not dual fuel. So you're going to want to use the 18650 batteries. Can the Wi-Fi be turned off? There actually is no Wi-Fi. This is not, as far as I can tell, emitting any kind of electromagnetic signals. I do have a little tester unit where I can check that. It's not emitting anything that is used by the actual cord if you want to download stuff into the computer. Does it emit an active signature? Indicator lights glow green, etc., highlight the user's position. So on the top of the unit, you're going to see we do have, these lights are backlit. But there is a way to turn this off. You just hold these 2 buttons here at the same time, and it'll turn off the backlighting. These are the brightest lights up top, so you can turn those off. Unfortunately, this power button has a very dull green glow to it. So what a guy could do if you were going to use this is, I was thinking about doing some paint on it. There's a flexible rubber paint to use for tool handles. Put that over the top, or you could put a piece of electrical tape over it. Maybe even a rattle can would mitigate that particular problem. Another question that came in was asking about the waterproof rating. Of course, it's IPU67. I would think that it would hold up pretty well. It looks like the seals are a good design. So what is the boot up time? Here we go. All right, I'm going to hit the button now. I'm holding it. I'm holding it. I'm holding it. I'm holding it. There it is right there. So that's the boot up time right there. Okay. So it does take about 5 seconds maybe to boot up. There is a sleep mode on here where you can just click it when it's on like this. So, excuse me, where's the power button right here? So I'm going to click that and it goes to sleep. And then when I want to use it again, I can have this on standby. I just click it and it's on immediately. And that'll conserve battery life considerably and keep it dark, so it's not emitting light when you're walking around with it, and you can not have to glow in front of everybody. Usable battery consumption rate, I would rate somewhere between 5 and 10 hours, depending on how you're going to use it, if it's going to be fully on or if you're going to have it in sleep mode. I do believe they rated 4 or 5 hours of continuous use. That's going to change dramatically with temperature. Are the rechargeable cords or plugins standard type or proprietary? These are USB-C. So these you can find cords at the local gas station if you break one or lose one. No problem at all. Easy to get extra cords. And it is considerably lighter than a lot of the other thermals I have used in this specification range. It's smaller and lighter, so the footprint is a bit more compact. If you're going to carry it on a 2-point sling in front of you, the laser does kind of rub into your chest a little bit, but it's not like sharp edges, and it's not really that bad on like an AR. So it's not terrible to carry, at least the way I carry it. It does not appear to me that it was optimized to be clip-on capable in its configuration. It's kind of a standalone optic configuration as far as I can tell by looking at it. And what is the sensitivity to looking through a veil or a screen or an ARD setup? Now, I did not attach an ARD, but it does see plenty fine through like mosquito netting. It does lose resolution. If you have a real heavy veil with stuff tied onto it, it's going to obstruct it a little bit. But if you get it in the right exact spot, you'll be able to kind of shift it around just slightly, just move it a tiny bit to get what you're looking at perfectly in focus. It's usable with the veil, for close range stuff. For long range stuff, you're going to lose quality. So that's answering those questions to the best of my ability that I can do right now. So my final conclusion is, when you consider the price point and the quality, it's, I think, a pretty fair trade for what they're asking for these things. My favorite part about it is it's really good imaging quality. That's first off. I mean, I notice with the higher sensitivity of the sensors in here and the specs of the processor and how the processor is actually interpreting the image and drawing out a picture of everything you're looking at, not just the target, but the backstop as well too, and all the stuff behind it. To me, that's like a big safety improvement. I hate running around with the thermal in the complete pitch black dark without a light on it, because I will use the light to make sure I'm not missing something behind there. I don't want to take out one of my tractors or something else that I might not see in haze, right? But this thing will give you a lot more, and you still want to run a light, actually, if you're running in a homestead or something, gosh darn it, just to verify exactly what you're shooting at if you need to, right? But like the image quality of this with the high sensitivity, it draws a really, really good picture. It's a lot better than my other unit that it's an older unit, but like it's way better than that, and it's a fraction of the price. So that's cool. My favorite part about it is the usability of the interface. I hate buttons that I don't know where the menus are at. This is really simple. It's just a list of features. You hold this one button down and basically you're there. Now you have a record button. This is your dimming switch. They have a quick dimming, so if you need to make it, every time you hit this, it gets duller and duller until you get all the way through, then it'll bring you back to the bright setting. And then here you have your different color palettes available right here. So on the quick index. So if you want to switch color palettes, you just click this button. If you want to adjust your brightness, that's this button. If you want to record, that's this button. That's all there are for buttons. And all the rest of your detailed menu stuff is like right here. So you just hold this in, you push that, your menu pops up, you index up and down by dialing, and you click on the stuff and it walks you through it with instructions. That is brilliant. So the user interface is brilliant on here, I have to admit. Also, with the IP rating, this is field usable. I can use this anytime on the homestead and not worry about frying something. I'm scared of lithium batteries exploding. And also when they get wet, there's a lot of corrosion problems that can happen. Lithium batteries are dangerous. They need to be sealed. This is a completely self-contained design with the 18650 battery. Plus the efficiency of this, it just runs cooler and it's like not using near as much power. I can tell because there's less thermodynamic energy loss. There's always, if something's really, really, really working hard, units will get hot, and this stays pretty cool when you're running it. So whatever they're doing is very smart. So technology is absolutely progressing every day. There is a point, though, gentlemen, where you have to calculate. These are not going to be around forever. Not for civilians. At some point, someone's going to think to try to get rid of these. That's on their list, I guarantee it. So stuff like this, you have to be careful. If you wait too long and someone introduces something, it could be it's nice. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. But the cool thing about the price is coming down. The quality is going way up. At what point is that price going down enough and your quality going up enough before that red line hits where these are no longer available because of politics? So that's the we're in that moment maybe to where, gosh darn, a good thermal now is affordable. Are they going to come down into the hundreds of dollars range? I have no idea. I would hope so. Maybe in the future they will. But this is the cost of a decent rifle scope, and it's a very high quality unit. Totally worth the money, 100%. So again, of course, if you use the links and the codes, there's a discount code. I'll put that below. That, of course, helps the channel. I do appreciate your support and your help so I can continue to deliver and communicate what's available nowadays to you guys. And if you do that, that'd be awesome. You guys have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. If you'd like anything explained in more detail or explored in more detail, let me know in the comments. I would like to learn more about this as well. There's all sorts of other stuff. I could talk for probably 5 hours on all the different stuff with this optic. But if there's something specifically you would like me to expound more on, just let me know in the comments, and I will be here to assist you. Rock and roll. You guys have a good day. Rex out.